I haven't spoken at all. I'm realizing, like, getting into it. Okay. Let's make a video. Hello everybody, Jake, your resident content cowboy here, yeehaw, and I'm sure you're wondering, why is everyone talking about this hat? Through the magic of editing, I put this Exp Share perfectly on my head, when everyone should be talking about these 3 hats. Dodrio has 3 hats, and they're all different. All right, enough of that bit. Let's talk about Exp Share. Let's talk about Exp Share, or Experientials Share for long. Exp Share is an item that seems to be picking up a lot of steam inside the community lately. I'll tell you why in this video, what has changed, why teams are using it in a competitive format, and what you can do in your games to take advantage of this item, and some Pokemon that it would be good on. First, they give base stats, movement speed and HP, and that's something that I can talk more in depth about a little later. I actually think there's an interesting combination with these base stats and a boost emblem setup. So Exp Share's sort of ability, its passive, however you would talk about it, is really the reason that you would run this item. And that is that when you are the lowest level Pokemon on the team, or tied for the lowest level, so if you're a level 4 and an ally is a level 4, this item's ability activates, you get experience points per second, 5 more EXP per second. And we don't know the exact experience numbers, but just know that your EXP is gradually ticking up when you are the lowest level member of the team. And there are quite a few Pokemon that can run this item and get great benefit of it, because a Pokemon like Wigglytuff, Hoopa, things like that, they are not necessarily going to be the highest level Pokemon on the team, and shouldn't be. And this item will help you gain experience so that you can hit your level break points. Usually a lot of supporters are at about level 12 when they want to get, you know, sort of their big second move upgrades, and this item helps with that. Now, it also does something else, which recently got a buff, and this is the reason that everyone is running this item. Exp Share got changed on November 30th of last year when they added in the rapid fire scarf, yay, and the drain crown, boo. And Exp Share ever since then has become a very, very important item. The biggest thing that happened is this: it fixed a bug where the boosted experience to allies portion of the item wasn't activating unless you were the lowest EXP on the team. This was always one of the biggest drawbacks of this item, and the reason it was kind of difficult to run it in a solo situation, because you just couldn't trust that it was going to work. Now, this is a huge change, and I'll try to explain to you why, what exactly that means, how it works inside of your matches, and again, why everyone is gaga over this item, even Lady Gaga. This video could have done without that joke. It's not even really a joke, it just feels random. So to explain exactly how this sharing of EXP works on Experience Share, let's take a look at this tweet here from Steve my cat, where it says, come on fingers, where it says Pokemon Unite PSC number 3 EXP Share Edition, no Experience Share. So this is what normally happens when you are KOing wild Pokemon. We say the mob, this little wild Pokemon, 100% of the experience is available. 70% of it goes to the Pokemon who got the last hit. So if that Greninja surfs it, they get 70% of the EXP of that Pokemon. If any allies are in range, the remaining 30% gets distributed evenly to all nearby allies. What is that range? That range is about the range of an eject button, where you would see it. It's not, you know, the full range of a screen there. You've got to be in somewhat decent close proximity to actually have the experience get shared to your allies. Okay, now let's talk about Exp Share. That same situation occurs. You've got the same wild Pokemon. You've got Greninja right there. It uses Surf. It KOs that wild Pokemon. If you have Exp Share on, Greninja now gets 100% of that experience. So no longer do they get 70%, they get 100% of it, and you still get 30% to the Pokemon with Exp Share. And this is the most interesting thing about this. Regardless of who last hit, this feels kind of surprising and different than I think a lot of people knew or expected how this item worked. And for the longest time, I thought this item was kind of trollish in some sense when you were playing in solo queue, because your allies just didn't know how to play around it. But now I actually feel like if you're running a few supporters or defenders, there are some really good opportunities to use this item. Again, you are now giving that Greninja, who needs the bulk of the experience, by the way, they are your carry, and they're playing in lane. You need to give that Greninja as much experience as possible, while at the same time, if you are the lowest experience level Pokemon in your team, your experience is still naturally ticking up, so you don't mind giving them a huge bulk of the experience. And even if you last hit as Hoopa or Wiggly or whatever, if that Greninja is in range of it, they still get 100% of the experience. And this is why you are seeing this item run so much. You're seeing multiple EXP shares run on a single team because they're letting their carries, like a top lane Zarina, Lucario, something like that. You know, bottom lane, they have a Pokemon that they want a lot of experience to go to. Some teams you'll see run a Decidueye or something like that in lane at times. And they're able to feed all of this EXP to their allies while really not losing much from it at all. It's pretty awesome. There are more situations and more breakdowns that we could get into. I'm gonna have a link to this tweet in the description if you wanna check it out. I think it's a great resource. This is all from the Unite Math Corps. They know what they're talking about better than anyone else in the world, better than a doctor. I'm telling you, if I got very, very sick, I'd go to the Unite Math Corps first. Now, let me show you some other cool things about EXP Share. I called it Exp Share. Let me show you a lot of Pokemon that it works really well on. So I'm not gonna put every Pokemon here because there are tons of Pokemon that really don't take any advantage of this item, and I'm sure I'm leaving a few off, but in general, this is what EXP Share looks like in my opinion for a lot of these Pokemon. So let's take a look at it. We've got our 3 tiers right here. I have to see a tier list every week or something goes wrong with my brain. We have the great for EXP Share tier. We have the pretty good for EXP Share tier. We have our... We've got our B tier. Still got the B tier. God! And I'm going to explain kind of why I think what I think in here really quick. So this top tier, these are all Pokemon that I think are really excellent for this item. Slowbro maybe gets bumped down a little bit because you can use some other items on it, but it's incredible at last hitting. It might last hit a little bit too much outside the range of EXP Share, but that's just something to consider, I guess. However, most of these Pokemon I think are amazing with it. Everything in this top section right here, again, I think really takes advantage of EXP Share. You don't need a lot for any of these Pokemon to be good, and you can give all of that experience over to your allies. The next category, Mamoswine, Mime, Pikachu. I think all these are pretty good. Pikachu's range, I think, might get you in a little trouble with EXP Share sometimes. And then at the same time, you know, you might not need actually to run this item because there are multiple items that are really good on Pikachu. Like its Unite move is kind of insane, so you could run double Unite move items on it. Something like Mamoswine, you might replace EXP Share for a stacking item or something like that. Same thing with a Pokemon like Mr. Mime. So these are why I kind of put it in this pretty good tier. And then I've got my B tier right here, and this is just because these Pokemon I think are good with it, but have some weird things going on. I actually kind of love the idea of EXP Share on Mew. It's just that stacking on Mew is so amazing right now and it gives you so much damage. That being said, it feels like Mew doesn't farm particularly well as the match goes on, even though it fights extremely well. So it could be a pretty decent item on Mew. Crustle is just weird. Crustle's just weird, and you might be playing critical hits on it, which means you can't run this, and you might be doing scoring, which means you kind of can't run this either. Crustle's a weird one. And then Blastoise is another weird Pokemon where I think this item is probably pretty good on Blastoise, but it's so experience hungry. And this is something to keep in mind when looking at this item. Blastoise is so experience hungry that if you don't get experience, you will sit there with a little light bulb over your head and you will have given all your experience to an ally and you will be that war turtle at 4 minutes still not evolved. And just as a super experience hungry Pokemon, I would watch out for that. And when you look at the rest of this list, all of these Pokemon down here, there's a reason that all of them really wouldn't run EXP Share. Maybe I'm missing one or something like that. But a lot of it's because so many of these Pokemon, for instance, if we look at Cinderace or we look at, you know, Garchomp or anything like that, these Pokemon need tons of XP. You would never want them to run EXP Share unless you had a 5-stack team with a very specific strategy, and that very specific strategy is to lose. That's basically it. Really quick before I let you go here on Experience Share, I did want to talk about this emblem setup, just something that I've been messing around with a bit. I call it on Wednesdays We Wear Pink. Right now it's Dazzling Jeans because I forgot to change the name of it. It's irrelevant. The point is, this feels like a really good set for some supporters, especially things like Wigglytuff. And it's interesting because it lowers movement speed, but it does give you a decent amount of HP, and it gives you 7 pink. It almost feels like, to me, this emblem setup is kind of set up to be used with an EXP share. Just a thought that I've been having for a while is it feels like, oh, there's actually some sort of synergy there. This gives you a lot of health, but it lowers move speed a bit. EXP share gives you even more health, and it raises move speed to counteract anything that you're losing. Just a thought. I feel like this emblem setup, I feel like there's something to it with a few specific Pokemon. But this video is not about this emblem setup, it's about EXP share. So again, I'll have a link to the tweet we talked about earlier, but a couple big things to know. It no longer matters if you're the lowest XP Pokemon on the team, you still get the advantage of an ally getting experience when you KO something in that range, and you can be the one getting the last hit. This is pretty huge, and because of that, I would say that a lot of the Pokemon we looked at on that list should probably be running this item. Maybe still not in solo because you just can't control what your allies are going to do, but in general, this item's value has skyrocketed, and it's why you see it everywhere. I hope this video helped. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I will see you all next time.